The sun was dropping low behind the Texas horizon, stretching long shadows across the golden prairie. Dust drifted lazily in the warm evening air, and the land seemed quiet enough to hear a heartbeat, if anyone had been calm enough to notice one. But calm was the last thing on Jackson Ward's mind as he rode across his ranch toward the old oak field. His stallion snorted, ears flicking at a sound carried on the wind. A cry. Not just a startled gasp or a distant shout. A scream. High, sharp, and filled with a kind of fear that dug its claws straight into Jackson's spine. He pulled the reins tight and froze, listening. The second scream came clearer, trembling, carrying pain, or something deeper. Something broken. Without thinking, he kicked his boots against the horse's flanks. "Yah!" he barked, and the stallion thundered forward. The plains blurred past. The scream came again. Closer now. Jackson's jaw tightened. He had heard cries on this land before. Injured cattle, wolves fighting, even a ranch hand who'd once gotten his foot caught in a steel trap. But this was different. Human. Young. Fragile. And terrified. He leaned forward, urging his horse faster, until he burst through the clearing. And there he saw her, a young woman in a black and white habit, kneeling forward over an old wooden barrel. Her hands were gripping its edges. Her shoulders trembled. Her face, pale, tear-streaked, scrunched with pain or shock, was lifted toward the sky. Her mouth was open in a scream that seemed to split the air itself. A nun. Out here, behind her, dragging in the dirt, lay a broken wagon wheel. A small camp sat smashed as though someone, or something, had torn through it. Her horse was nowhere in sight. Jackson didn't have time to process the details. He dismounted instantly. "Ma'am," he called out, voice steady but urgent. Hey now. Are you hurt?" The nun didn't answer. Her breathing came in quick, shallow gasps. Her whole body shook. Jackson stepped closer, and she screamed again, turning her head and staring straight at him with wild, frightened eyes. "Please, don't come closer," she cried, voice cracking. Jackson froze where he stood, hands raised. "I ain't here to hurt you," he said softly. "Name's Jackson Ward. I own this land. You're safe, ma'am. Just tell me what happened." She swallowed hard, gripping the barrel like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. I thought he was still behind me," she whispered, looking over her shoulder as if expecting a shadow to rise from the grass. Jackson's voice was calm but sharper now. "Someone chasing you." Her breath hitched. She didn't answer. Jackson took one slow step forward. "Listen, you're hurt. You're scared, and you're out here alone. I need to know if someone's after you." But the nun's eyes weren't on him. They were on the ground behind him, on a trail of hoof prints in the dust. Fresh. Jackson turned slightly, sensing movement in the tall grass. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. He moved closer to her, his boots crunching over the dry earth. The nun flinched, but she didn't scream this time. Her eyes lifted to his, wide, glistening, filled with a mixture of fear, desperation, and something he couldn't name. Jackson knelt beside her. "Ma'am, look at me," he said gently. "You're bleeding." Her left sleeve was torn, and a thin line of crimson stained the cuff. He saw dirt on her palms, a bruise forming along her cheek, and the exhaustion in her trembling arms. But something else struck him harder. The way she looked at him, as if she wanted to trust him, but the world had given her every reason not to. "I'm not your enemy," Jackson said quietly. The nun finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "He found me." Jackson felt the wind shift, though the air was still. "Who?" She shook her head. I can't. If he hears." A twig snapped somewhere behind them. Jackson's hand instantly dropped to the gun at his hip. The nun gasped and instinctively pulled closer to him, her fear overriding her hesitation. Jackson stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. Nothing moved. Just silence. Long, heavy silence. Then Jackson slowly released his grip on the revolver and turned back to her. "You're safe," he repeated. "I promise you." This time, she didn't pull away. Her breathing slowed. Her hands loosened slightly on the barrel. Jackson touched her shoulder lightly. "Can you stand?" She nodded weakly. He helped her rise, slow, careful, his arm steadying her. She stumbled once, and he caught her by the waist. Their eyes met again, closer this time. She looked away first, cheeks burning. "Thank you," she whispered. Jackson felt something tug inside him, a feeling he hadn't let himself feel in years. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. Then softly, "Evelyn." Jackson nodded. "All right, Evelyn. Let's get you out of here." But as they began to move, Evelyn suddenly froze again, her fingers clutching his sleeve. "Jackson," she whispered, voice trembling. "If he comes back, if he finds me again, it won't just be me he hurts." Jackson turned, his eyes steady. "He'll have to go through me first." Evelyn stared at him for a long moment, long enough for Jackson to finally see it. Her scream, her terror, her broken breath. It wasn't just fear. It was a story, a truth, something she was running from, something she couldn't outrun alone. And in that moment Jackson realized, her scream wasn't the beginning of danger. It was the beginning of everything. The wind howled across Jackson Ward's ranch as the last light faded behind the hills. Shadows stretched long across the ground, swallowing the path behind them. Jackson kept one steady arm around Evelyn's back to support her as they moved toward his horse. She walked slowly, each step an effort. Jackson could feel her trembling, not just from exhaustion but from fear that clung to her like a second skin. When they reached the horse, Jackson lifted her gently and helped her sit side saddle in front of him. As she leaned back slightly, her shoulder brushed his chest. She stiffened at first, then relaxed, just a little. "Hold on," he murmured. Her hands hesitated. Then she gripped his arm for balance. Jackson nudged the reins, and the horse began a careful trot toward his ranch house on the distant ridge. The prairie stretched dark and silent around them, except for the rhythmic thump of hooves on dry earth. Halfway across the field, Evelyn spoke softly. "I shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have helped me." Jackson's brow furrowed. "Why's that?" "Because he doesn't stop," she whispered. "If he's following me, then you're in danger too." Jackson leaned closer, so she could hear him over the wind. "I don't scare easy." "That's what scares me," she whispered. For a long moment, neither spoke. The stars came out one by one above them, glittering coldly against the vast western sky. The moon rose half full, lighting the plains just enough to outline the ranch house ahead. As they approached, Jackson felt Evelyn's body grow tense again. Is anyone else inside?" she asked, her voice shaking. "No," Jackson replied. "Just me." Her breath left her in a trembling sigh, part relief, part fear of the unknown. Jackson swung down from the horse and lifted her into his arms. She gasped and clutched at his shirt, startled by how easily he carried her. "You don't have to," she began. "I know," Jackson said softly, "but it's easier this way." He carried her inside, kicking the door closed behind them. The old ranch house smelled of cedarwood, coffee, and old leather. Warm lamplight filled the main room. Evelyn stared around like she had entered another world, one that felt safer than she thought possible. Jackson set her gently onto a wooden chair near the fireplace. She winced slightly when her injured arm brushed the backrest. "You need that wound cleaned," he said. "I'll be fine," she whispered. Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, you screamed loud enough to shake birds from the sky. Forgive me if I don't believe you." A faint, unexpected smile touched her lips, gone almost as quickly as it came. Jackson fetched warm water, a cloth, and a small tin of salve. When he kneeled beside her and rolled up her torn sleeve, she flinched, but didn't pull away. The bruise along her forearm had darkened. A scrape near her elbow oozed blood. "This looks worse than it is," Jackson said. "Hold still." Evelyn nodded. Jackson cleaned the wound carefully. His fingers brushed her skin only where necessary, but every light touch made her breath hitch. She lowered her gaze to hide the blush warming her cheeks. "You're gentle," she whispered. Jackson paused. "You say that like it's a surprise." "It is," she said quietly. Silence drifted between them, soft, fragile, intimate. Then Jackson asked the question that had been burning in his mind since he found her. "Evelyn, who's chasing you?" Her shoulders stiffened instantly. She looked away, fingers twisting in her lap. "I can't tell you. I can't help you otherwise," Jackson said quietly. "You've helped enough already," she insisted. Jackson sat back on his heels. "You're afraid. Hurt. Alone. Whoever this man is, if he's dangerous." "He isn't dangerous," she interrupted sharply. Then she swallowed. "He is, but not the way you think." "Then tell me the truth." Her breath trembled. "You won't believe me. Try me." Evelyn closed her eyes like she was gathering courage from the darkness behind her eyelids. Then she whispered, "He's not a stranger. He's someone I once trusted, someone who claimed to protect me." Jackson's jaw hardened. "Someone from your church." She didn't answer, but the silence was answer enough. "He thinks I owe him," she continued. "Thinks I belong with him. When I refused to go with him, he tried to drag me away." Anger flared in Jackson's chest, not wild, but cold and steady. "What's his name?" Jackson asked. Evelyn's lips parted, but the name refused to come out. "He'll kill you if you get involved." Jackson looked her straight in the eyes. "And what'll he do to you if I don't?" Tears gathered along her lashes. She pressed a hand over her mouth to steady her breathing. "I don't want anyone else to get hurt because of me," she whispered. Jackson reached out, not grabbing, not forcing, just resting a hand lightly over hers. "You're no burden," he said softly, "and you're not alone anymore." Her eyes flicked to his. There it was again, the fragile spark of trust, small but growing. Before she could respond, a sharp knock thundered against the front door. Evelyn jolted upright, eyes wide with terror. Jackson froze, hand hovering near his holster. The knock came again, harder, more impatient. "Jackson," Evelyn whispered, voice barely audible. "It's him." Jackson stood slowly, every muscle tight with readiness. "You stay right there," he said firmly. Evelyn reached out and grabbed his sleeve, her grip desperate. "Please, don't open that door." "I'm not going to let him walk into my home without knowing who he is," Jackson replied. The knock turned into pounding. Jackson stepped to the door, clicked back the latch, and opened it just a crack. A shadow stood on the porch, tall, broad-shouldered, hat pulled low, coat dusty from travel. The stranger tilted his head. "Evening," he said, voice smooth but cold. "I'm looking for someone. A young woman traveling alone. Pretty. Wears a nun's habit. Seems she's lost." Jackson didn't move. "She isn't here," he said flatly. The man smirked. "That's so. Funny. Her horse is tied up by the river. Camp smashed. And tracks lead straight onto your land." Jackson's fingers brushed the grip of his gun. "Ranch covers thousands of acres," he replied calmly. "Ain't seen anyone." The stranger leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Listen, mister. She belongs to me. She made vows. Promises." His eyes glinted with something dark. "I'm here to take her back." Jackson's voice dropped like iron. "No one belongs to you." A slow smile spread across the man's face. "You wouldn't lie to me, would you, rancher?" Jackson didn't blink. "I want you off my land. Now." The man tapped his boot against the porch post. "You got fire, I'll give you that," he said. Then he tilted his hat. "I'll be back when you're done playing hero." He turned and walked into the darkness. Jackson shut the door firmly and locked it. Evelyn was shaking uncontrollably. "He knows," she whispered. "He'll come back." "And I'll be ready," Jackson said. Her voice cracked. "You shouldn't risk your life for me." Jackson stepped closer, his voice low, steady, unshakable. "I ain't risking anything. I'm making a choice." Evelyn's tears finally fell. She put a hand to her chest, as if her heart ached too deeply to hold still. Why are you helping me?" she whispered. Jackson took her trembling hand gently in his. "Because the moment you screamed," he said softly, "I understood something I didn't before." Evelyn looked up, breath trembling. What did you understand?" His voice was barely above a whisper, warm, honest, unguarded. "That you weren't screaming for someone to save you." He brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "You were screaming for someone to finally believe you." Evelyn's breath caught. Her eyes shimmered. For a moment, the world around them disappeared entirely, leaving only the quiet closeness between them. And in that fragile moment of silence, a gunshot shattered the night.